What's up, fellow humans? I'm shooting this video by walking on the path area of Napier, the beach in Napier, as you can see, early evening. And I'm shooting this video as an intro to the podcast you're about to listen to. It's with one of my best and closest friends, Søren Dahl, who I've had the pleasure to spend 1 month with in New Zealand. We are working on his autobiography. And to give you a little appetizer about what that biography will be about, him, obviously, listen to this podcast and get some valuable inspiration from him. He has done many different things, but all with aspirations of choice of what he wanted. There is a bit of a description of how you can really live your wildest dreams like he has. So I highly recommend that you watch this episode of Your Unique Podcast. It's the second. I'm really happy to share Soeren with everybody, and I hope it will be of value to you. And please subscribe so you can be updated with more episodes of both the Daily G but also the podcast. I will work on getting the files uploaded somehow, so eventually you will be able to listen to these from your phone or whatever. If you want them, please let me know and I can send it to you. Otherwise, I really hope that you will enjoy this episode. Be well, and may you be very well and safe on your unique journey. Until then, enjoy. Welcome to Your Unique Podcast, episode number 2. Today, it will be with my good friend Søren Dahl. And the story is, to give you a little context, that this is our last moments actually together after spending about 4 weeks plus a few days touring New Zealand. We started in Auckland in March 2nd, where I arrived into Auckland. Søren picked me up in our beautiful van, little caravan, and we spent about 4 or 5 days driving down to the ferry that we then crossed to the South Island, and we then spent most of the time down there. We are now back on the North Island in the east, called Napier, where I will stay for about a week's time at least. I guess I can ask, even though I know, who are you, just so this new audience will get to know you, or maybe some people who already know you will get to know you a little bit better. What did we do here and why?
Yeah, I am a Dane as well as a Gideon, and I have done several adventure things in my life, and that inspires other people, including Gideon, and has done for some years. We actually met 10 years ago in Copenhagen at a conference, and since then we kept in contact. And I do some adventures in my life, and have been asked for the last few years, when do you start writing your book? And I take that as a compliment. Gideon has been asking me a little more specific for the last year, because he would like to be to help me write this book. And this month stay here in New Zealand together, touring around at the same time, has been sort of a takeoff for this book. Gideon has been interviewing me, and this has turned up with quite a number of hours and files, which are now downloaded, ready to be listened. And so that's very roughly who I am and what we have been doing here.
Yeah, so I guess that's the foundation for everything else. And just to give you a bit of a frame of you, you started out as an organic farmer,
Yeah, that's
or a
true.
farmer, and then organic farmer, then, and
Yeah,
then you sort of got into more, health stuff, activities, or like physical adventures, and then of course sailing has sort of been the red thread through everything, and traveling, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I'm a farm kid, born and raised on a farm in Denmark, and
In Jutland.
In Jutland, yeah, truly. And it was as being the oldest of three kids. It was sort of naturally that I followed my dad's footstep, turned into be a farmer, and I did my farming education. But when I started out on my own, I had the feeling if I should produce human food in a healthy way from my heart, I sort of had the feeling that it should be the organic way, and that's what I did. I have been doing organic farming for 18 years. Within my farming education, I had the opportunity to go around the world, doing some experiences on a farm in Australia for half a year, and on another farm in Canada for half a year. And that was sort of a foundation, or the takeoff for my traveling adventure, because before I just didn't have any travel experience at all. And after traveling across the globe, countries by aeroplane, I sort of got the feeling that it would be nice to enter a new country, a new island from the seaside. Crazy idea for a farm kid, born almost with my rubber boots on.
That was in '96.
That was in 1996. I was inspired to.
I know a story now.
Yeah, yeah. 1996, when I was inspired to sort of go sailing. I was a crew on a Danish boat out in the South Pacific, Tahiti, French Polynesia, for 3 months, and I should never have done that, because that was the start of the start of my sailing adventure.
A new love, is it? A new type of love. Yeah, new love. A new love.
Oh yeah. A lifestyle, and especially in the tropics. When we sail in the tropics, it's in shorts, bare feet, and sunglasses, and that suited me so well. And yeah, after I did some experiences on other people's boat, finished a navigation course, and 15 years ago I bought my own boat and did some experiences with that one. And yeah, and then something happened in my life, and a matter of fact that somebody wanted to buy my farm, buy my land, and I sort of had to realize that that was my exam, being a organic farmer. And and that was sort of a turning point in my life, where I sort of had the possibility asking myself, what would I do if I had all the chances in the world? And I had a dream. It was a little tiny dream inside myself. A seed was planted. Actually, back when I was 12 years old, I saw a documentary at the TV. This Norwegian scientist, Dahl. He wanted to prove that the Polynesian people came from South America. So he built this balsa raft and sort of floated from east to west out to Polynesia. At that time, I didn't know what it was going to turn
What was
to me.
the name of that? Is Kon-Tiki,
Kon-Tiki was the name.
and that's
of
actually
it.
made into a full movie. Have you seen it? Or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've seen. Yeah, I have. And yeah, so I had a tiny idea that maybe it would be possible for me to go long distance sailing. And 6 years ago I made the decision that I would like to go to the South Pacific Islands in my own sailing boat. And I did a lot of preparation with the boat, making it ready. I always like to share adventures, experiences with other people, and for that reason I decided that I would like to have crew on board. So on my boat it's 34 feet, which means 11 meters. And it is a sailing boat, one mast, a sloop rig. I like to have people on board, share adventures and experiences. So I have room for 3 crew on board, and and then I also decided the date for leaving, 15th of July 2015.
On your
on the hour of 15, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and actually on my 55 years birthday. Took off from Copenhagen, and beforehand I made arrangement with crew coming on, going off along the sail, and the navigation from Copenhagen. And I also made a detailed plan for where to go, where to stop, pick up people, and very roughly the navigation took off from Copenhagen through the Kiel Canal out to the North Sea, along South England, the English Channel, out in the North Atlantic to the Azores, down to Madeira, Canary Islands, where we set our course going west, crossing the Atlantic to the Caribbean.
And that was your 5th time?
It was actually, that's true, my 5th time crossing the Atlantic. Before I did it in other people's boats, but this time it was in my own boat. Coming to Trinidad in the Caribbean in December 2015, after 3 weeks at sea. We spent a little time in the southern Grenadines before we went up to Cuba, stayed in Cuba for a month. After that, directly south to Cayman Island, down to Panama Canal. Did all the preparation work to go through the Panama Canal. Now we are in March 2016. And then out in the South Pacific, out to Galapagos, a week's sail. Stayed in Galapagos for 3 weeks, and then we went for the longest distance from Galapagos out to French Polynesia, the northern islands, which called Marquesas. And in the French Polynesia area, the French Polynesia area also includes the 65 atolls, and then at the very bottom there is Tahiti, sort of the main island, the capital for French Polynesia, with surrounding islands. We actually spent 14 months in French Polynesia. Beautiful, beautiful place. And the last sailing was from Tahiti out to going west to Moorea, Huahine, Raitea, Taha, Bora Bora, and then southwest down to Rarotonga, up to a remote atoll with 51 people living.
Oh, really?
It's called Palmerston, out to Nui, and then further west out to Tonga, where we also stayed for a month, and then south down to New Zealand. We arrived here in New Zealand in late October 2017, and my boat has been here since. So right now, yeah, it's more or less 1.5 years ago since I arrived here with my crew and my boat. My boat is still here, and yeah, so I sort of, how can I say, succeeded together with my crew, with the weather, with good luck, with prayers, with everything it takes to live a adventure like this. So yeah, my dream came true. It's a reality. So yeah, and what comes next? To be honest, I'm not quite sure. I'm in a position where I feel very privileged. Yeah, I'll see what happens. The project now is to get this book written, and
Move a bit, just for the sun.
yeah, it's the sun. Solen den kommer lige ind i bæret. Yeah. Yeah.
But also, like, when I am thinking about this, and also what we've talked about, is that the sailing adventure of 27 months was basically the your test as you, that everything came together, everything you've been through came together on those 27 months. Everything you have learned, all the things you've done, all the experiences that you've had, everything that sort of you have, all the skills that you have, everything sort of came together and made those 27 months possible. And of course, like when somebody sees you and they see, oh, okay, 27 months on a sailing boat, but yes, it's only a small result of everything that was before that, which is what I like when it comes to stories, and what going beyond anything or anybody is that there's so much more to it. Like if a soccer player who plays a game for the national team of any country, yes, that's one game and he's there, but he has been on a training, he's been training for thousands and thousands and thousands of hours to be able to be there for those 90 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
And like you, even though it's 27 months is a long time, you have been working on towards this probably since you were 12 in some ways. And
Yeah,
especially when you got older and older and had more sailing experiences. So just for the people, because I of course know, but what made you ready, and what are those things that sort of made that foundation for you strong enough for you to both with the things you've done as a physical athlete, I guess you can say, but also as a farmer and many of the other things you have been into?
Yeah, from the outside it looks like holiday and free time, having a life on a sailing boat. A sailing boat is actually, how can I say, a living place, a living platform. We have our it's a floating home. Together we have our own water supply. We actually in sometimes clean the seawater into drinking water. We make our own electricity with solar panels and the wind generator. Sometimes we also supply ourselves with food when we fish along the way. And sometimes we also, in some of the islands, go and collect our own food, coconuts, papaya, mango, avocados, oranges, and so it's kind of a, how can I say, a living place, a living platform, a floating home, and that means that we sort of have to, how can I say, take care of not using water unlimited, you know, just for taking one thing. Another thing is that when we use a facility as a boat 24/7, it takes to be maintained. It takes some maintenance every now and then, because being out in the weather conditions, sometimes it's strong wind, but actually what is hardest to the gear is actually the sun. The sun is the UV is so hard on everything. It is.
But I guess the point of all this is that you are the captain to be sort of sure that is always okay and all that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, how can I say, describe what it takes. It's not only a holiday when you come.
Especially not for you.
Yeah, especially for me. Yeah, right. Because being a boat owner and a skipper, it's my responsibility that the boat is safe and things are in functional use. Because when people come on board, my crew come on board, they have naturally enough expectations that the things are functioning to make the platform, the foundation, the basic for our adventures. So yeah, it takes something for me. To be able to get everything into a, how can I say, a functional state, that everything is secure and safe, and that takes that, how can I say, I sometimes feel that I use.
Should we remove this a bit?
Yeah.
Sit over here. That's better.
Lean bagved det der træ der. Yeah, I would truly say that going on a adventure expedition like this, going halfway around the globe, because that's actually what it is, from Denmark to New Zealand. It's the most far away you can get from Denmark. It takes, that's my experience, at least. It takes everything I experienced beforehand in my life, both practical, you know, fixing things and making things ready, but also how can I say, socially, you know, being able to be together with people in a very little area, a close space.
How many square feet or square meters?
The area, how can I say, the floor down in the cabin is 3.6 square meters of the floor, and up in the cockpit it's 1.8 square meter. Of course, we have the deck where we also can walk around, but it's a little place.
All in all, is that less than 20 square meters?
Yeah, it is.
Or less than 15 even?
No, 20. Okay. 20, I would say. 20 square meters.
So imagine that 4 people would live in a 20 meters square foot room for a month or 2.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a challenge.
Yeah, it is. So it takes strength and flexibility to be able to stay with 3 other people you don't know beforehand. So yeah, it takes a number of skills to be able to navigate both physically with the boat, but also navigate in our social private life. And yeah, that's a, how can I say, a learning you get taught by others, and you get to know some, how can I say, parts of yourself that you didn't know you had within yourself.
And I guess you also experienced the physical aspect of this kind of experience, that how much was needed. But because of what you have done before in terms of your competitions, you can explain more, but that made you confident that you could go through a lot of physical adversity, I guess you can say.
Yeah, for sure. And how can I say, making a decision to go on such a adventure, all right, I tried a little before in other people's boats, but doing it on my own boat, that was a challenge. I could have a imagination beforehand how it maybe would be like, but you don't know until you step into the scene and make the decision. Now I'll do it, whatever it takes, and then you can have a plan, but you can't plan everything. You know that the weather might change, and it does. But you'll have to adapt to the situation and take it from there, and at all times that's how it is, to be present in the now, and deal with everything in the way it comes, challenges, and of course also all the adventures and beautiful places we've been to, and fantastic people we met along the way.
So just to give, so the foundation was basically the organic farming.
Kan vi flytte den bag det træ der? Det er da godt nok lige. Den kommer lige ind i bæret.
So the foundation was, organic farming. The seed was planted in terms of the Kontiki and the sailing. You were on a few adventures, but you then have a liking for cycling, and you also did many different races, triathlons and Ironmans, and that's what I meant before, was that actually that physical, because you'd never really, you've done some before, but that was the peak of your physical achievements, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that made you ready for being able to withstand all the physical, what was needed out there on the sea when you were tested, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. I've also been, I've always been a physical person, always moved a lot, and biking also as a kid. I was riding my bike actually until I got my driver's license, being 18 years old, and so it has always been naturally for me to use my body. And when I turned 50, I was sort of inspired to do an Ironman, which is this athletic sport within 3 disciplines: the swimming, biking, and riding. 3.8 kilometers of swimming in the sea, right after 180 kilometers riding the bike, and then finishing with a marathon. And I was inspired, and I was amazed by watching these people doing this competition, and I decided I would like to do the same. Even I had to learn to do the proper crawl technique, and the biking was my favorite, But actually, I ran my first marathon within my first Ironman. Yes, I did. But I completed within 11 hours and 50 minutes, and that was really something. At the age of 52, being able to finish such a performance, and actually 9 months later, I did the world's hardest Ironman competition in Lanzarote, one of the Canary Islands. It took a little longer than 11 hours and 50 minutes, but I completed.
But what was interesting when we've shared. So did we even say in the beginning that the reason why we're doing all this?
I'm not quite sure. No, I don't think so.
The whole reason why we are together in New Zealand is to write Soeren's book. I think you maybe mentioned it in the beginning, but so obviously we've I've talked to Soeren and gotten his whole life story, because there is obviously a lot I don't understand or know. But what I remember, especially from this part in your life, or what you got inspired by, was this guy. You were actually observing an Ironman race in Copenhagen, right? Where you were just standing there near, I think, the fitness DK people, a fitness center crew or whatever, and all of a sudden there was this guy running who just came and said, "Next year it's you," and you passed that on too, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So what I mean with that was that when you did the second, was it the first or the second race? Then you did that to another person, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And you had never. That was the seed for you, wasn't it?
Yeah. I can say so.
And he didn't know you. You never seen him again.
No, I never.
It was just a random person. Just next year it's you, buddy.
Yeah.
And he was racing. So he was actually. Was he about finishing or?
Yeah, he was doing one of his last kilometers within his marathon. Yeah, he just stopped and looked me into my eyes and pointed me, "Next year you do this." So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
What else? We're both travelers, and we have obviously spent. I mean, this is my 10th year traveling, even though I've been home in Denmark once in a while, but it seems like that your life, based on everything you have done, based from sailing, from farming, you've done massage therapy as well, you have done the different races, and also you worked with what would you call that, a pullebone, yeah, what would you call it? A hot dog stand.
Yeah.
One of those regular ones we have in Copenhagen or in Denmark that you can find pretty much anywhere, but mostly in Copenhagen, I think. You have a good friend who had I guess it's a charitable business where that she travels, and you've sort of helped. You've been with her for some of the tours in China and the U.S. And a few other places where you sell hot dogs and whatnot, and you can explain more. Maybe that's
Yeah, it has also turned me into some travel experiences.
Yeah.
I met this a girl who set up the world most traveled hot dog stand. That's her brand, and she travels around the globe. Her intention is to visit the seven continents of our globe, and so far we have been to 5 continents. She does it for charity, mainly for putting focus on groups of children who needs attention, who needs economic support. And I am a volunteer as a hot dog agent. So we give away the hot dogs, and people can donate whatever they would like to, from $1 to a number of dollars, whatever. It goes to groups of kids who need support and attention. And so far we have been to been across the U.S.
That's where that was the starting,
Yeah,
the real start, right?
Yeah, that was the start of the overseas travels, and then we went to China, Japan. We have been to Greenland. We've been to Australia, and she went on her own to India and Africa. Yeah.
So my point before was that everything you have done has seemed to take you into experiences of traveling in many different parts of the world.
Yeah, you can say so.
I guess that's also why we are doing this. We talked about, obviously I've talked about or asked you for more than a year probably to help write this book and to make your story come out, because you're also in a transition where you don't really know what you exactly want to or will do, but what I've gotten out of this is that you're pretty sure that you would like to give more of yourself to others who wants to live their wildest dreams, who wants to be themselves and have the courage to do so. And that's also why I want to do this project with you and do this book, which is going to be the first book in the Your Unique book series, which is going to be a really good one to start off with, because I think it will give a lot of inspiration to a lot of people that even though you come from a very different background, you can do things that are totally unorthodox or whatever. We are challenged by the morning sun here in the Napier, but yeah, I'm really happy that we got to spend this time together, and we can now move. So today we'll basically move separate ways, and we'll meet back in Denmark 3 months from now. So the next 3 months, just for me, is going to be important to begin writing or start the process of writing the foundation for the book, and see how that big puzzle will come together. We've been around New Zealand now, and you'll go back to the north, Whangarei, but go from there.
Yeah, I go up north to my boat, and we'll spend about 3 weeks up there before I leave New Zealand, and I go to I actually go to Peru. I went to Peru in September last year, but as I sometimes say, even after Peru, I've been to many places in the world, and I've seen a lot, but I just didn't know that so much were waiting for me in Peru. So for that reason, when I leave New Zealand here in 3 weeks' time, I go back to Peru, probably for a couple of months, to experience some more. And what I experience in Peru is something, how can I say, beyond. It's something in here within myself I experience. Sort of, as you say, I'm in a kind of a transition zone, looking back at my life, and especially with this a book project. You have been interviewing me for this past month, having a look from upstairs, maybe somewhere, what did actually happen in my life? What have I been doing? And what kind of person has it turned me into? And also even more like, this morning sun. Yeah, it's beautiful with the sun anyway. Fantastic. Here in the beginning of April, it's actually autumn month here in New Zealand, but still nice weather. Yeah, I'm in a position in a place in my life right now where I sort of make a kind of a statement. What have I done, and what kind of person has it turned me into, and what is more in here inside. That's what I spent some time developing.
So if you should if somebody's listening and they look at your life and they say, "Holy hell!" I mean, you've done so many different things. I mean, because I feel like I feel I have done a lot of things, but this guy, he's done so many things within doing things. I mean, you've also been driving trucks, so you've been driving buses too, and you've also been in different countries with that. You've been massaging people in the national cycling team, or youth cycling team, and done so many things. And people can wonder how do you do that? And I think I've been wondering about, have you ever had a time where you actually didn't want to do anything? But it seems like the farming and the place you had was a foundation for doing a lot of other things that you chose. So you've chosen the things you want to do more than you have had sort of felt like victimized of needing to or have to do something.
Yeah.
So how would you advise people to have the courage or to step out and do what they dream about and so on?
As humans, we get inspired from other people, from our surroundings, from the media. Also, we sometimes get an idea or a feeling of something, and we might not be able to put it specific into words coming from a person, from a book. It comes from another place, and what I'm talking myself into now is that the feeling, it comes from in here within yourself, right? And I realize with my life experience, when I have this feeling that comes from in here, that's, how can I say, the truth. That's the real thing. You can get inspired, but it, how can I say, the real feeling and the final decision is made in here. It comes from your heart, and you make the decision with your heart. And how can I say, when I get an idea, when I get inspired, I sort of try to go into myself and sort of feel, is this really what I want? And if my heart tells me yes, this is it, this is what I would like to do, this is where I would like to go, I sort of get more ideas and make plans and put it into words, put it into action, because that's what it takes to move from an inspiration, an idea, and into the adventure. It takes action.
But I guess it sounds like you allow yourself to feel what you want so much that from that point you've made the decision, so that the action will sort of be the second step. But you've already made the decision. This will happen, and then you do it.
Yeah. And that's my experience when I make decisions with my heart. That's the best basic I can work out from, and there will be challenges, whatever you would like to do, but you will find solutions along the way. And I have, as I started out to say, I'm almost born with my rubber boots on as a farm kid, and then I moved from such a solid element of the ground, moving out to the sea, where it's waves and nothing stays still on a boat. But it is possible, the biggest limitations we as humans makes are made up here in our brain, in our mind. That's where the biggest limitations are.
How do you break through those when you meet them? Because you must have gone through a lot of those.
Yeah.
Because you're a very action and practical oriented person, but also you're very calm. You're very grounded. and I have a really sense of. I mean, you do feel a lot, but you come from that place, sort of naturally. It sounds like, but So how do you go through those limits, or when you encounter
It all depends what kind of challenges it might be. First of all, I sort of ask: is it something that needs to be taking action urgent right now, or can it wait an hour, or can it wait a week? You know, that's the first thing. If it takes action, or if it needs if the need is to be taking action right now, you have to do something. But if it's a thing that how can I say can be done tomorrow or next week, I sort of try to use my fantasy. I think when you ask
imagination, is that what you mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
My imagination.
Yeah.
I sort of try to, what kind of result would I like to get? What kind of result would I like to see? And I sort of put that imagination
to make that clear.
that side, to make it clear. And it might be out there, it might be just in front of me, and I sort of try to work out how would that be possible to get there, or get it back to normal, or get it fixed, or
So it sounds
whatever.
like you first you feel it, and become clear that this is with yourself, that this makes sense, that it feels good. Then you make it clear, sort of the result, make it clear, and then you begin to sort of take the steps to that place. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, okay.
Because you just can't know everything, especially not when you go sailing.
Yeah.
You can prepare as good as you can, but it's not a question if something breaks. It's a matter when something breaks.
Or when the challenges come. Or,
Yeah.
So basically, you start with the why, then the next is the what. Kind of, the result is the what you want out of that, or the result, the end goal, and then the how to is the action steps, or the actions towards it.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah. So, how can I say? Don't limit yourself, because you'll find solutions, you'll find answers along the way, and I'm not. I don't feel myself as a special person. I'm just the one I am, and in a way we all are. And I've had some dreams. Some of them has been crazy dreams, but again I sort of ask myself, how is the feeling? Is this something I really want to do? And yes, when the answer is yes, I continue, I keep on going, asking people who did it before. And sailing from Denmark out to the other part of the globe, it was my life dream, And if your passion is big enough, and your willingness to go and do it, whatever it takes, you can fulfill your dream as well. And sometimes it can be very interesting to just make some brainstorming. What would the wildest life dream be?
And that's actually in August this year, or last year, I listed up 100 things. It's from a guy called Sebastian something. He basically lives his life after writing down 100 things on a big list, and then his life purpose is just to pursue those and make those things happen. And that's everything from like things he's afraid of. It could be riding a horse, which is on mine, to doing Ironman or doing a marathon, which I'm pursuing to do this year. So it's fun because you actually begin to put your life in a frame of what means something to you, and that's what I've liked, at least with doing that. But also, what I have also liked with spending time with you, just as a friend, of course, the last many years, but also especially now, is that I realize how important it is to spend time with people where you mutually can lift each other up. Because you and I, we speak the same language in the sense that we want the best out of each other, but also the best out of ourselves. And yeah, so that's been sort of a nice experience this last month.
Yeah, for sure.
So is there anything left to say? Anything else you want to add?
Well,
it was a good conclusion, I think, with how you saw those things, how you make your dreams happen.
I would say, spend a little time for yourself, and maybe lift yourself up in a helicopter and look from up there, see yourself, see your life. Am I really in the place, in the position in this life where I really want to be? If not, you maybe should give yourself the chance to put in some other options, or to dream a little bit, because it is possible to fulfill dreams.
And then again, I think what I thought about before was you arrived in New Zealand when you were 56. Is that correct?
Ask again.
When you arrived into New Zealand.
Yeah.
And that took, since the seed was planted, let's say that was 12, but maybe that grew a bit. But it also takes time before, because you need to mature into the dream too. So it's also about I mean, that's the good conclusion to this, is that you needed to go through tons of things in your life to even be able to do this.
Right.
So yes, of course you need to figure out what you want and why and all that stuff, but you also need to sort of be mature enough and be prepared and have the personal, the variety of skills or whatever to have actually make those things happen, because because otherwise maybe you wouldn't have ended up in New Zealand, because you wouldn't have been a good enough sailor or strong enough or whatever. So this year will be basically for you Peru, back to Denmark. You have some farming stuff going, or your land will be
and then we have to, how can I say, finish our project and put all these interviews into writing and into
and I'll start that process this month, or this next this next days. We both sort of feel full. We need to go a bit of separate ways, but we in a good way. I feel very ready. Feel like it's our time to just be with ourselves a bit and reflect and calm down. And for me, the next 2 months I'll spend both in New Zealand the next 2 or 3 weeks, and then in Australia for a month. I have a 32-kilometer race in May in Perth with my good buddy Stefan, and then I will go to Europe probably in June, and the rest of the year I'm not sure, but I know it will be a lot of work with this book that we will pursue to publish in December at the end of the year. So thank you for your friendship.
Thank you.
And to everybody else, if you didn't listen to the last podcast with Dr. Shambhu from India, where I was at the Ayurveda clinic there, the link will be right below. It is a very, very good interview, and if you don't know about Ayurveda, something that has transformed my life completely over the last month, and I think Søren has been the first person to actually experience my change, which is really a good one. So be well and safe on your unique journey out there, and I look forward to share a lot more content, podcasts and whatnot. And please reach out if you want to get in touch with me or Søren. I will put his contact information and details, website, whatnot. I know a lot of it is in Danish, is it? Or is it in English?
It is right now.
Okay. But anyway, he's on the different social medias, so he will definitely always love to hear if you have goals or dreams of sailing or running an Ironman or something. So, ciao from here. All the best to you guys.